G'day everyone, welcome back. This time we're doing more work on Dad's GU Patrol that, if you didn't see the last episode, we put a Eaton M90 Supercharger on. I guess we'll give you a little bit of a rundown. This Supercharger come off a V6 Commodore, so a 3.8 litre V6 in the States. I think they're also on like a Grand Prix or some of those sorts of things. So anyway, good little superchargers, and what it's on is a ZD30 DI, so direct injection non-common rail engine. Now this is an experiment basically, and if you go back and watch the last episode, it explains a bit more about why and what we're hoping to achieve. Now also what you'll find in that last episode is that it didn't go quite according to plan. We got it all fitted up, made it up, physically running, driving down the road. There were three pretty, significant issues. The first one, the exhaust note. Because there's no turbo on this anymore, this isn't twin charged or anything, it's just supercharged. Because there's no turbo on it, the set of extractors that I made make the car unbearably loud. So, the little muffler that's in there at the moment, it's coming out, and I'll show you in a sec, but we've got a nice big triple pass 3-inch muffler to go in it. Hopefully that shuts that up. If it doesn't, then I'm going to put the one that comes out will go in at the end as well, and we'll put two mufflers in it, and hopefully that'll shut it up. Second issue was the idler pulley didn't seem to control the belt slap very well. Now I did sort of take it off and muck with it a little bit off camera, and essentially where I'd machined the step and the snub back here, I didn't quite have my tolerances right. So when you were locking up, when you locked this front nut up, it didn't quite clamp it properly. So that tensioner was actually a little bit loose, or it could wriggle, which didn't help. So that's been fixed now, and I fired it up, and it's better. The tension side of the belt, or the drive side of the belt, still does have some slap, and I think if we continue down this path in a permanent sort of situation, then I'm going to have to put another idler on that side just to control that belt slap. But that's not really that big of a deal just yet. Right, the third and possibly the biggest issue that we come into is it doesn't work very well. Namely, we just had a lack of power. So, like I said, it'll be much easier if you go and watch the other episode. I'll put a link in it, and I'll also put a link in the description for the other episode. It'll help this make a lot more understanding without me having to rabbit on and go through it all again. But basically, we only saw a maximum of 7 pound of boost, which is not enough. This thing was originally tuned up to about 22 pound, and we were running the turbo at 25 just to try and lean that top end out because it was still quite rich. We had previously peaked that turbo at 28, but we sort of wound it back. It was just not, the engine was, running them that hard is not recommended. Even still, we were getting substantial amount of power out of this. Sorry, not this setup with the turbo, but the turbo died, hence here we are. Like I said, cruising down the road, we're only getting about 5 pound of boost out of this current pulley configuration, which is not enough. And then right at maximum RPM at 4,500, it was getting 7 pound of boost, or 7 or 8. Still not enough. So this episode, we're going to go through and we're going to do some modifications. We're going to install, I'll show you. So don't mind the messy part of the bench. This is our new muffler. Like I said, 3-inch. It's hard to see down in there, but basically triple baffled, it comes down, or triple flow, so it comes down, hits a baffle, comes back, and then back again and out. So that should shut it up. We also have a dirty big slab of aluminium. Now this is 220mm diameter and 150mm long. This will go towards making the lower pulley, the crankshaft, a new crankshaft pulley that's much bigger. Much bigger. So yeah, I actually need to figure out if we can swing that in the lathe. We might have to mount it up in the mill first, but we'll see. Now, like I said in the last episode, I want to try and do this as a little bit of a back-to-back sort of setup. So we're going to install the muffler first, and then we'll run it up, see if it makes any change in boost pressure. If there's by my logic, which hasn't worked very well for us so far, if we were to put a restriction in the exhaust, you would probably see an increase in boost pressure just because of the back pressure. Like I said, my logic for what it's worth. So we'll do that first, just to baseline and make sure that that exhaust doesn't do anything as far as our pressure gains are concerned. Then what we're going to do is pull this supercharger off, and I'm going to strip it, put it on the mill, and I'm going to machine it out in a certain way, and then we'll port it, put it back on, take the car for a run, see if there's any changes. Depending on what we find, we're going to go and machine a new lower pulley, and depending on how much boost we get out of that, we may even be machining a smaller upper pulley. So yeah, we're going to basically rev the cake hole out of this thing. More than likely, this whole situation is not going to work in the long run for us. We may end up going back to a turbo, but you know, it's there, it's bolted on. We might as well give it a good old crack and see how we go. So yeah, anyway, that'll do for an intro, I think. Before we get cracking, definitely subscribe, share it around, notifications and comments. I mean, I got a few good comments in the last episode, and I appreciate it. Yeah, I mean, this is experimental. Like I said, I'm not a mechanical engineer by any stretch, and there's a few things that just aren't working the way that I thought they would. So we'll go through them later, and if anybody has any advice, apart from, you know, drop a TD in it or you should LS it or whatever, don't need that sort of advice. If anybody has any advice or, you know, information on why this is not working the way that we thought it would, please let me know, because yeah, if someone's got a really good idea, we can try it and see if it fixes it. So anyway, we're going to lift it up and put that exhaust on first, and then we'll fire it up again. Hopefully it gets rid of that woeful exhaust note. That's the little muffler that we're replacing. You know, it's not very big. It's, you know, for comparison, I don't know, 250 mil long, and it is a straight through. So, you know, 3-inch pipe in there, a little bit of baffling, or sorry, not baffling, pipe all the way through with some expansion, and I don't know, probably some fiberglass mat inside. So we're going to take that out. The long one will go in this place here, and then if we need it, this one will go right at the end of the tailpipe on the other side of the diff. But yeah, let's get this one unbolted and get the new one in and see what it sounds like. Muffler in. Nothing sort of wild about that. We just put it in. I was able to reuse a flange, which is good, but I did stuff up a little bit, and I'm going to have to heat and bend something because that's too close to the chassis rail, so I didn't realise. But yeah, we'll see. It'll be good enough to fire it up and see what it sounds like. Plus, we sort of really want to bring this tip further down from the plastic. I mean, it's not melting it, but it will. So alrighty, so muffler in, and I don't know if I'm going to get the boost gauge. Yeah. Alright, I'll tell you the RPM, and you just watch the boost gauge. Yep. 1500, 4 pound. About 2400. That jump then.
A quicker rise than I got. Jump to what?
Like 8. Sort of
What's the trouble with this gauge? But it jumps in lots of 2s or 3s, but yeah, it's not an analog digital.
Just try and just sort of bring it up. I think we're getting a little bit of belt slip there.
Hang on, 3.5. We've got 8. onto something
Might be
there.
getting a little bit of belt slip going on there.
Yeah. Well, let's give it a bit of a nip.
Yeah, headlights are on.
Yeah.
Alright, for the purpose of whether the muffler makes a difference on the boost pressure, it doesn't seem to. But I think we might be getting a little bit of belt slip, which I didn't think we would, but let's tighten up the tensioner and see what happens. Just adjusted it up more than what I would have sort of expected to do, but anyway, at idle, no change.
1500.
Yeah.
2000. 2500. 3000. 3500. 4.5.
Right,
Okay.
that
Belt
went to
slippage.
10.
Well, now I'm feeling better.
Alright. Okay, so that went to 10, so we had belt slip. Geez, I wouldn't have thought so, but...
What if we had belt slip on the highway? Well, not that much.
Oh, well, it takes 3,000 before it hits 10, or before it hits 8,
it's
so
still
nah,
up,
so that's fine. I mean, we still need to spin it a lot harder, but at least...
That's a good start.
Right, so if we spin it twice as hard,
We'll get 20.
we'll get 20, maybe.
Well, okay, in theory, on paper, 20.
Yeah.
And if you do port mods and we get 22-ish.
Well, that's next on the step.
Yeah, I know we're going to do like for like, but that's back to nearly the tune with the turbo. Boost pressure wise.
Yeah, with everything,
23.
yeah.
If we get 22, 23, it should run our 200 odd horsepower again with the torque.
Yeah.
Should have the air for it.
Alright, no worries. Well, that's it. So, okay, we're getting 10 pound at... What was it? It was 10 pound at about 4, wasn't it? Or 3,500?
30.
Okay, charger's off. Now, one bonus I will say for the Supercharger, much easier to get off than the turbo. This whole thing is off in 15 minutes at most, probably 10. Okie dokie. Now, what are we going to do? Well, first thing we're going to do is we're going to get rid of these two lugs here. Now, where's my charger? I might have to get mine and show comparison. Anyway, these two lugs here are the backside for the bolts that run through here and here. Effectively, they're just two big blockages out on the discharge. Now, we've got these two slots here. Now, these are referred to as silencer ports, and they do actually just that. They interrupt the pulses of the Supercharger and shut it up. They make it a lot quieter. On my one for the RX-7, I'll show you in a sec, but I've welded them up. Now, that does actually slightly decrease the efficiency of the Supercharger, so I found out after I did it. I found it out. Anyway, but what it does is it makes them loud, which for the RX-7 that's fine. I'm sort of all about, you know, it's a bit of wank factor and sounds cool. For this truck, not so much. It's still a tourer, so you know we don't want this thing absolutely screaming its head off. Now we're going to remove this section of material here and show you why. So that's the gasket for what we've got, and as you can see the gasket's cut all the way back here. That's actually the size of the opening in the manifold that I made. I sort of screwed up a little bit because when I made the manifold I measured it off my charger, and my charger doesn't have this bridge, so that was my fault there, but that's fine. We're going to remove that bridge and it'll open up the discharge port to more of the manifold, so that should be good. The other thing we're going to do, and I will just stand by, I'll get my charger. Okay, so like I said in the previous episode, this one is the one for the Supercharged 13B RX-7, and this has already had most of the mods done. So as you can see, those bosses are removed, the bridge is removed, but also the V is extended quite substantially, so it's almost back to where the bridge was. You know, it sort of comes back to, where are we? I don't know, we've got sort of a finger width off there, so it comes right back to there. Now, I don't know if what I've done here is actually correct, to be honest, because I've never tried it. So this will be a really good back-to-back to see what it does. So we're off the machine, and as you can see, we've opened all this out, bridge is gone, and then we opened the V out. That's about it. Nothing to it. They still follow exactly the same angles as what the original did, they've just been brought out a little bit. And then the only other thing that I've done is come in here with a Dremel rotary burr, whatever you want to call it, and I just chamfered that edge either side. It probably came out a little bit more on the corners, to be honest, but just chamfer that edge back so that anything that's at the front of the lobes gets shoveled in. And that is a rough guide as to how I'm going to go to the back. So the bearings are just under here, they're all covered up because I don't feel like pulling them out and putting new ones in, but we're just going to come across the bottom of this red line all the way up to the corners and then profile it back. The only other small thing I'm going to do is in the back here. There's a fair bit of meat here, so I'm just going to sort of just open it up slightly to the gasket size, and same with the elbow. That's about it. So probably about an hour or so with the rotary burr just sitting there making noise. So yeah, I'll bring you back when they're done. We basically assemble it and see what happens. So before I went wild with it, I just thought I'd show you a bit of a rough sort of comparison side to side. So that's factory on that side obviously, and then we've brought the line more or less flat, tapered it right into the edge, and then sort of getting it to flow. The shininess makes it a bit hard on the camera, but we'll get it to flow a bit more, and then as it sort of starts to go around, we'll pull a bit more material out here. But that's about as far as you want to go along there, because as this casting at the back drops off, it actually falls into the bore for this bearing. So if you start to take too much off the top of it, sort of down in there, it's hard with the focus, but like down in there, you sort of start to pull that back too far, you'll end up going into the bore that bearing's in. So be careful there, but yeah, that's more or less what it'll look like on that side as well, and then we'll just blend it all out. Here we are, taking out all down in there. I mean, I could have spent, you know, another day really going through it with multiple grades and taking all the imperfections and everything out, but it's not quite the state we're at yet. So anyway, I did a little bit of port matching at the back and a little bit of port matching in the elbow just to make sure they all line up properly. So I just did them with the gaskets, and that's where we are. I'm going to come through and give it all a really good clean up and get the tape off the back there and put the rotors back in and fire it up. Will it make any difference? I don't know. This is exactly what we're here for. So yeah, like I said, I could have went a lot further with the porting as far as finishing goes, like getting really nice smooth surface finish. I'm gonna look, that sort of stuff is good, it helps, sure, you know, but you start talking about little 1% mods, and we need more than 1% mods. We need like 20% mods, as in, you know, if you do the modification, you're going to get a 20% increase. So hopefully we've achieved some of that here, but I mean, we won't know till we put it together, bolt it on the car. So let's go and do that. Back to where we were about 5 hours ago. Will it make any difference? I don't know, but we're going to find out. For transparency's sake, something I didn't realise was they actually get bolted down a lot harder than I thought. Now, when I undone the bolts, they weren't loose, but they certainly weren't like super tight. The Supercharger bolts to bolt down, I mean. The gasket didn't show any signs of blowing, but when I lifted it off, I thought there's not a real heavy imprint there. So I actually ended up looking at the torque specs, and they get bolted down to 24 Newton meters, which is not crazy, but it's certainly more than I had it. So I went through and I actually bolted down properly with a torque wrench. If we see an absurd amount of boost increase, I'm going to say that maybe we were getting a boost leak, which would be nice. So anyway, we're at the point now where we're going to hit the key and see if this even makes a difference. I don't know what started doing that either. Alrighty, so we've got a bit of warmth back in the motor, engine, whatever you want to call it. Engine. Sure. Okay. There's that boost gauge down the bottom.
Hasn't changed.
Left hand side. Yeah, right there.
Oh no, here we go. 1500. £4. 2000. Oh, hang on. 2000. £4. 2500. 5. 3000. 5. 3.5. 4 is 9. 4500. Same.
Well, yeah, okay. Black switch. Yeah, righto. Well, it's also doing a hunting thing, which is odd, which we sort of didn't notice before. The charger's going, woo, unless that's a belt slip, like a belt grab and slip, and oh, that's awkward. But yeah, don't know. I will say the charger is notably colder. Like before, when we did that almost exact same procedure, you couldn't put your hand on it.
Oh yeah,
That pipe's probably still
yeah,
hot.
charge temperatures are warm. We're right on the other side.
Yeah, that's warm.
That's a lot.
The charger is cool, much
Actually,
cooler.
It's only hot in the bearing area. It's quite cool. Not hot, but
Yeah. So
yeah, it's happy with them.
it's much happier with the tension. Yeah, but no more real boost to speak of.
No.
Mind you, the other day when we took it last weekend was like what?
7.
7, and now we're getting 10.
Yeah, but was that because it was slipping?
Yeah, I think a lot of that's because it was slipping.
But still, we're way off the number. We're not off the number yet.
Yeah. So I'd almost be willing to take this for a drive. I know it's not fantastic, but at least we can monitor the AFRs and sort of see. Oh, they're rich.
Yeah, they're rich.
They're rich, but at least we can monitor them and get a little bit of an idea of what it's doing.
Yeah, true, but I think
Oh, it's still
there's no
well
getting
off.
out of it. We're going to have to spin it harder.
Yeah, it's still well off.
It's still like just under 10,000, isn't it?
Yeah,
At full noise.
yeah. So at Redline, the blower's doing 10,500, which is not quick. Redline in factory application, I sort of worked out. It took me a little bit to find the numbers. Factory application at Redline, so they factory Redline at 6, or 5.5 is where they start, and Redline at 6. The blower's spinning at, oh, I'm trying to remember now, I think it's about 11,000.
Yeah.
So, and they make, the factory Supercharged V6s make £6 a boost. So we are spinning it, we're spinning it a little bit slower than factory, but because we're a smaller displacement engine, I think we are actually effectively getting the right numbers. It's just
They're still too small.
they're still too small. We expected the numbers to be a bit higher.
Given the flow rate of this versus the flow rate of the turbo we had on it, this, by all accounts, should flow a hell of a lot more air.
Should, but it's not.
But I don't know.
So, and we did actually try it without the pod filter as well. When we did the last lot of testing,
Yeah.
pod filter make no difference. So
There's no restriction.
there's no restriction in the filter. I'm surprised at the change in temperature on the Supercharger though.
Well, it's doing it easier.
Yeah. So
But no, yeah, okay. So it's doing it easier. More efficient, but still. We need to spin it.
we need to spin it harder. That's the end of it. Alright, that means I need to somehow chuck up that big ass block of alloy and
Do what you do best. Make alloy chips.
make alloy chips.
Deep fry.
Alright.
Alright.
We'll go ahead and do that. Oh, yeah. Alright, I'm still keen to take this for a run as it is. Alrighty, so we're not really expecting any major changes, obviously. We took it for a bit of a squirt, and I mean, it's almost just a complete repeat of what we had. Straight off the line, it's not terrible. But, I mean, we'll put a little bit of a foot down here, and like I said, anything under about 18 to 1 and you really start to roll coal, like blow a lot of smoke.
Well, that's black.
Yeah, and EGTs are climbing. So that was about That was more than 4.
No, not 5, didn't go above 5.
Oh, okay. Either way, like, yeah, still not spinning it hard enough. It does feel like it goes a bit better underfoot. That could be, I mean, that could have a lot to do with the fact that the Supercharger is running a lot cooler, which will be negated very quickly because the exhaust manifold will heat up and heat soak it. So, but yeah, still not hard enough. So we're going to go back to the shop. Alrighty, well, again, I don't think the camera will pick up the boost gauge, but driving back, and I mean we're going downhill now.
At 0.
Yeah, we've lost all boost. So I did pop the bonnet and have a look, and the Supercharger pulley's spinning, but there's no noise, there's no boost. So I think what's probably happened, and we'll pull it apart when I get back to the shop anyway, but I think what's probably happened is where I've pressed the drive on the back side of the new pulley Supercharger drive shaft, I think that press has probably let go. So, I mean, we can pull it apart and I can actually weld that up instead of just making it a press fit. Just got back and like as you can see, it's still spinning. So yeah, but we got no boosties and we still got down there. That's fine, it was still spinning with the crank. So I'll drop that belt and see if I can feel the lobes spinning, but I doubt it. Belt's off and it's not spinning the lobes. You can't feel them spinning. It does. Oh, it's still really hot. You can sort of hear that it almost, need to stop touching that. Yeah, that's really hot. Anyway, yeah, it's not spinning lobes. The bearings don't feel fantastic either, to be honest. So what we might do is I should be able to pull all these bolts out, and I should be able to bring the rotor out, like the full rotor pack and everything forward, and then we can see what broke, because I can split it. It should just come out of here, so the oil will stay contained, then we'll get it on the bench and we'll split these two, and that's where that shaft is that I reckon's busted. Moment of truth, I guess. Find out what broke. Break the seal here, and then so yeah, I just not turning the lobes. So, ow, it's freaking hot too. There we go. Starting to get a bit of oil out of it. Really should wait longer, but I'm not going to.
What'd you come up with?
I'm working on it. I haven't got there yet. Just trying to get some of the oil out so I don't run it all over the bench. Separate the case, I think it'll go.
No, maybe. You're in the wet bench now, from the bench up.
Well, oh, am I?
Yeah. And there's some metal in it.
Yeah.
It's got sparkling.
There's some metal in it. Yeah, well.
Well, you don't get nothing for nothing, do you?
That turns, that doesn't, so, you know.
Oh, what'd you forget?
Plenty of things.
Plenty of things.
Could always give it a half an hour, but no, you want to pull it apart now.
Oh, me, was it?
Yeah.
Because that's what I wanted to do.
Yeah, well. You wanted to supercharge a freaking ZD30.
Yeah? How much fun will this be?
Oh, it's really hot.
Yep.
Ow! Right up.
Look at them ones.
No, it's not there.
I don't know if you can see the sparkles. Look in the bottom of that. I know it wasn't a clean container, but...
There was also oil already in a container.
Yeah, okay, right.
But, yeah,
Not
it's
that
still...
sparkly.
It's not that good either. There it is. Righto. Well, that's okay, because it's still going to hold its centre.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to knock it back so it's in the right spot. And then I'm just going to come in and I'm going to TIG around there. Shaft to shaft, no more spinny. And then put it back together and see what it does. Alrighty, all welded up, so let's get it all back together and back on the car. It should make the Supercharger spin again at least. Whether it's going to fix our not enough power issues, I doubt it. But let's get it back together and put it on the car at least. Rightio. see if we've got any of our boost back. So boost is back at idle, which is good. It's definitely spinning. So what do we got? I'll try and hang on, let me get this microphone so you can hear me. Alrighty. So 1000 or idle at 1000 RPM, 1500. So that's about £4. 2000, 2500, about £5. That's 4000. Alright, so that was all the way to redline, or 4400, and yeah, nothing changed really, so we're in exactly the same spot. So, let me explain what that means. We have lost the hunting. It doesn't hunt anymore. It does rev nice, but anyway. Let me explain what I think's going on and where we're going to go from here. Because we're going to change gears a little bit, I think. Alrighty. So, we've been for a drive several times. We know what it does. We've had issues and we've fixed them. Where does that leave us? I know I said that I was going to machine up a larger lower pulley and spin the supercharger harder. I'm not going to do that now. There's a couple of reasons, and ultimately it's going to end up with didn't work. You know, you got to know when to just stop flogging a dead horse, and you know, basically an experiment is exactly that. Sometimes they work, sometimes they don't. Right, now at the moment with our current configuration at 4,500 RPM on the gauge, so engine RPM, we're spinning the blower at 9,800 RPM. That is achieving us 8 to 9 pound of boost. Like I originally said, this engine was tuned at 25 pound of boost, and then, or 22, 25, I can't remember the exact number, but we've actually been running it at 28, and no issues with the engine. The engine has held together quite fine. There's been no signs of any issues. Now, if I was to double the size of the lower pulley, so at the moment it's 150mm diameter, if I was to go 300mm diameter, we would theoretically spin the supercharger twice as fast. Well, mathematically we would spin the supercharger twice as fast. So at 4,500 on the crank, we'd be spinning what, 1980, so just shy of 20,000 RPM. That is way quicker than what this supercharger was ever designed to spin at. Longevity at those sort of RPMs is not high. I've never spun one, so that's hypothetical, but I mean, it's not supposed to spin that hard. Also, if you were to just extrapolate, we got 9 pound of boost, that's only going to give us 18 pound of boost. It's just, the supercharger's either just not big enough, or for reasons unknown to myself, diesels like a hell of a lot more air than what a petrol does. Like I said, I'm not a mechanical engineer. I don't understand, me personally, I can't understand why that isn't able to supply enough air for that, but it's not. There's just, you can't deny the numbers that are in front of you. And like I said, double the pulley, double the RPM, double the boost is still not enough. We're still short of our target by, well, almost another 10 psi, and you're not going to get it out of that supercharger. If you do, you'll be overspeeding it to the bejeebers, and you'll be pumping so much hot air that your intake air temps will just be through the roof, and you lose all power anyway. So, where does that leave us? Well, we have a supercharger to bolt onto something else.
Racing lawnmower.
Well, yeah, racing lawnmower maybe. Basically where that leaves us is, we had an experiment, we had an idea. The way I did it, it didn't work. If anybody wants to copy it and try it a different way, they can see something that they think might work better. hey, go nuts. Contact me via email. My email's in the description of most videos. I'll give you any details you want to know. I have no issue with that. Although I'm going to probably say that there won't be too many people that'll copy it. I mean, the evidence is the evidence. It just simply didn't work. Couldn't push enough air. But we're obviously not done with the car. This is still, you know, Dad's four-wheel drive. It's not just going to sit in the corner and never be ran again. We are in talks with another turbo company. So we're going to go back to turbo. We're not going to go back to another gated turbo. So we're going to go back to, well, sorry, not back to, we're going to go to a variable geometry turbo. But this time it's going to be not the standard ZD turbo. It doesn't flow enough to make 200 plus horsepower, which is what this engine makes with enough airflow. We're going to go to a different turbo. Don't know what yet. The company we're talking to has, they know what they're on about, and they're going to source us one that's going to do what we need to do. Not a big deal for us. I mean, I've still got the manifold there for the turbo. I would say, you know, it's a weekend's worth of work for me to swap this back to a turbo configuration, and using, you know, every ZD30 owner knows that, you know, you can use a doors valve and vacuum control valve to control the V&T side of things, the vanes, so we don't need to worry about electronics. It goes back together. We're going to have the benefit of low down airflow, which we were trying to do, which we do have. I mean, this thing's got throttle response for days, and the first 1500 RPM are way better than what the turbo ever was. But that's the end of the story, as you've seen. So, yeah, that's where we are. It's a little bit disappointing. Also, there is, it's a little bit of a cop-out on my part, but there is actually 2 bolts down next to the harmonic balancer down on the engine that will interfere. I could cut and shut them and make something low profile, but they will actually interfere with a bigger pulley. That's where we are. You haven't seen the last of this. As soon as we get the turbo that's going to go on it, I'll do an update and I'll show you putting all that on, and then we will get it to the dyno and have some proper dyno figures. So if you want to see that, go ahead, subscribe, leave a comment. If there's something that you can see blindingly obvious that I've done wrong, let me know. This will stay in its current configuration for a while because we've got to wait for the turbo, so we might as well leave it drivable. So, like I said, if there's something you see that's just obvious, like, you know, duh, dumbass, you didn't fix that properly or whatever, let me know. I'll try it. Yeah. Other than that, that's the last of it on this Supercharger setup. And, yeah, we'll catch up with you when we've got a turbo and something that can push a bit more air. So, until then, stay safe, and we'll catch you on the next one.